Hey everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. So sorry I've been a little absent over the past few days. I've been preparing something for a big announcement I'm going to make later this week. I will let you guys know. But I wanted to talk to you about something that you probably didn't know about. You didn't get a notification on Twitter, probably have never heard this woman's name, but you should have. Elsie Herring. She died at the beginning of May. Herring testified before Congress in 2019, and she explained that she and other residents in her area in Duplin, North Carolina, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, she told them that they can barely breathe because of the stench coming from pig farms nearby. She said, quote, "The odor is so offensive that we start gagging, we start coughing." She also described how she and her neighbors were becoming ill. They all had headaches, breathing issues. Many even had heart conditions. The reason being is the literal toxic emissions spewed from these pig torture and death factories, which include methane, ammonia, and hydrogen sulfide. And now, based on a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States, we now know that Elsie was just one of the nearly 18,000 human beings who die every single year due to these factory farms. These factory farms where sentient beings like pigs that are smarter than dogs are treated like inanimate objects and a product. According to the researchers and this study, quote, "Agriculture is a major contributor to air pollution, the largest environmental risk factor for mortality in the United States and worldwide." And they cite fine particulate matter, the same type of fine particles that I mentioned a couple weeks back about how dangerous fossil fuels are to human health. These are the particles that I talked about, which are called the PM 2.5 particles that are so tiny that you can't cough them up and they can be absorbed into your bloodstream. So exposure to these dangerous toxins increase your risk of asthma and other breathing problems, COPD, lung-related health issues, and long-term exposure increases your risk of developing and dying from any number of diseases, heart attack, stroke, cancer, autoimmune disease, you name it. And in this study, the researchers noted that animal agriculture is the main promoter of these often deadly fine particles. So other forms of agriculture are an issue, but animal agriculture specifically is an issue. They stated, quote, "Agricultural production in the United States results in 17,900 annual air quality related deaths, 15,900 of which are from food production. Of those, 80% are attributable to animal-based foods, both directly from animal production and indirectly from growing animal feed." They also found that the majority of the deaths occurred in California's Central Valley, eastern North Carolina, and the Corn Belt of the upper Midwest. The lead author of the study is a University of Minnesota professor named Jason Hill. He said that, quote, "The food system has really flown under the radar, but what we eat affects not just our own health, but the health of others. We're showing that directly." He also said that ammonia is the most deadly of all the toxins emitted by factory farms. Hill told reporters that, quote, "Of all the pollutants, ammonia is the one that has the greatest impact on mortality." And what he found is that ammonia emissions contribute to 12,400 deaths every single year. And here's the thing, the animal waste is typically stored in what's known as lagoons, which are just giant shit pits. To put it plainly, it's literally just a giant pit dug out in the ground near these factory farms. Some are so large, they're literally the size of multiple football fields. And they're just filled to the brim with not just urine, but also feces. So these farms aren't just emitting ammonia from the animal's urine, because the microbes break down the feces, and then that also emits ammonia. And then they also take that feces and they use it to fertilize crops in other areas. So it's not just the people who live right near these factory farms, it's also wherever they're pumping out this fertilizer. And the dangerous particles that I'm talking about, these PM 2.5 particles, like ammonia, can drift hundreds of miles from the factory farms where they originated. And there's very little regulation regarding the pollution caused by these factory farms. California is a perfect example. Even though we are a blue state, we're very progressive, we have some of the most strict air quality laws, the American Lung Association says that the San Joaquin Valley, which is in the central part of the state, they have the highest rate of childhood asthma in the entire country. And you know why? It's because of what's located in the San Joaquin Valley. A hell of a lot of farms. And here's the deal. As with fossil fuel pollution, animal agriculture affects poor communities and communities of color more than all others, because they purposely place these factory farms in places where the communities can't or just won't fight. You know, imagine if they tried to put one of these pig farms and a big feces lagoon in Malibu, California, or Bel Air, or some wealthy area of New York. It's never going to happen, because the wealthy residents would sue the hell out of them. Before one animal was placed on that land, as soon as they mentioned it, there would be a massive uprising. So if you believe in, and you're someone who's passionate about equality, then you must consider your food choices. Because when we say Black Lives Matter and we want justice for the underserved and the poor in the United States, we have to consider environmental justice as well. We have to take that into account. If our choices and decisions affect people of color and poor communities, then we have to make better choices and decisions. But if you're a liberal or a progressive, if you're a compassionate conservative who actually cares about how your choices affect others, you have to consider this, because these companies aren't going to just do what's right? They're not going to do what's necessary to ensure the health of the communities around their factories. And with the revolving door between government and these mega corporations, which I talked about in my book, the government they're not going to impose enough regulations, or they're at least not going to enforce them, even if they do, to ensure the health of the residents in these areas. This was very clear because there was a so-called study conducted in this very area of Duplin County in North Carolina. A civil rights group sued over the pollution, which is the only reason why they did this fake study. And the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality said, okay, fine, we'll do an air quality survey. It was part of a settlement. And what do you know? They found, oh, there's nothing wrong. Air quality is perfectly fine. And they discontinued their monitoring after 1 year. The reason being, they purposely placed their monitoring stations far, far away from the hog farms. Whereas nearly all of Duplin County residents reside within 3 miles of one of these hellholes. Now, of course, the corporations that own these factory farms are saying this is all false, but we've heard this same BS for decades. We've heard it from Big Pharma, Big Oil, from Big Tobacco. They all lie about their products. They all try to claim, and they hire these shills and pay them big money to lie to us on their behalf, to tell us that their products are safe. So even though these researchers have suggested ways to mitigate the pollution, there's absolutely no way these greedy bastards are going to take the necessary steps to reduce emissions. They're just not going to do it. It cuts into their profit margin too much. They have to have an additional private jet, right? They have to add another car to their collection every year. God forbid that they actually live like an average American and do what's right. So it's up to all of us, as always, to help people who can't afford to sue the corporations and they can't afford to move. And that's what I hear a lot of people say, who are just ignorant and who live in their own little bubble, and they have enough money to do whatever the hell they want. These people can't pick up and move. They can't afford it. So if Black lives really matter, then we have to do what we can to save their lives in every way, not just at the hands of trigger-happy cops. And the scientists said that if Americans just switched to a flexitarian diet and limited the animal foods that they consumed to just a few meals per week, deaths from air pollution would decline by 68%. Helping to improve and save the lives of our fellow Americans. Isn't that the core tenet behind the progressive movement? Food for thought, people. Pun totally intended. So I'm just saying, we can save Black lives. We can save people of color. We can save poor people in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things that are out of our control. There's a lot of things that we can't do. What we choose to put on our plate, what we choose to put in our mouths is one thing that we absolutely have control over, and it 100% affects other people, not just the animals, but humans as well. And climate change, it affects everyone all over the world. Just a thought, but there's science now backing this up. So thanks so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Take care, and I'll talk with you soon.